Bonsoir from the Cannes International Film Festival. I'm Serena Davanzo, and I want to talk to you guys about Marcello Mio. Marcello Mio is a French film that is currently in competition at the festival. So I'm going to read the description from the website. This story is a woman named Chiara. She is an actress and daughter of Marcello Mastroianni and Catherine Deneuve. During a summer that she sees her reality fall into disarray, she decides to live as her father. She dresses like him, speaks like him, breathes like him. Chiara's impersonation is so convincing that people around her begin to believe. They call her Marcello. Interestingly enough, all the actors in this film play themselves. Chiara Mastroianni, Catherine Deneuve, they all play themselves, like their actual named characters are themselves. And so they have to portray themselves for the big screen. And I did not know that until a French local and I got to talking about the screening after it happened. It was quite an interesting thing to learn. So when it comes to what I liked about this story, I liked that it was very comedic. It could be kind of lighthearted, but also serious at different points, because it's this woman like kind of dealing with what she has going on, but it's also comedic and other aspects of it. But with everything else that was in competition, like the substance and the shrouds, it was kind of like a nice little change of pace, which I enjoyed. My interpretation of the film is she's trying to comprehend like living in her father's shadow. So it was like, oh, well, if you think that I only got here because of my father, well, guess what? I will be my father. And so that's kind of how I interpreted her story. Like, Chiara did very well playing herself and her father. And it was like, I guess you could say the best word to say is confusing, because it's like, wait, is this, like in the story, they're like, oh, is this Marcello or is this Chiara? Like, people start to believe she's Marcello. And so I think that was very well done, especially on her acting. When it comes to what I think of the story, I think of it as a story of living in somebody else's shadow. She's lived in the shadow of her father because she looks remarkably like him. And she's also pursuing the same career he did. And so she's living in her father's shadow. And during the film, people call her a Nepo baby. And for those who may not understand, who don't know the phrase Nepo baby, it means a nepotism baby. Nepotism is when you kind of like get a job, or you are able to get into a harder career because you are like friends with someone, or you have family that's part of that career, and you kind of just get like a free entry. And you're not really actually qualified, you're not very good at it, but because you have an in, you get it. That's what nepotism means. And they refer to her as a Nepo baby because her father is a famous actor, so she was able to get into the acting career. And so people were like, oh, well, it's not actually because of your talent, it's because of your father. So I think with that in mind, my interpretation of why she decides to dress like her father is, well, if you think I'm not good enough and I have to be more like my father, well, guess what? I will do it. And basically kind of showing them like, I'm a good actress. I don't need you to compare me to my father. And so that's kind of how I interpreted it. Like, she was living inside of someone else's shadow, and it's like, okay, well, you don't think I'm good enough? Well, I'm going to show you. But that leads me to some of my dislikes about this film. There wasn't a lot of dislikes per se, but there were some confusing bits. That leads me to my next point. It was a little hard to comprehend as to why she wants to dress like her father. Like I said, I interpreted it as like, oh, you think it's nepotism that I got this? Well, funny story, no. But at times it felt like, oh, maybe she just hates herself so much that she wants to put on a disguise and just pretend she's not herself whatsoever. Or there's even moments where it feels like it's like, oh, does she believe she's possibly trans? I mean, it was just a little hard to kind of keep together why. And I don't know if that was the purpose of it. They did that very well. I will say that if that was the purpose, to kind of keep people guessing as to why. But if it was supposed to be clear, at least to me, it wasn't. Another thing that can be hard for people who may not know, as I said earlier, all the actors are playing themselves in this. And it's hard to get that going into it, because before I had seen the film, I did not know that. And then I watched it, I was like, oh, this is really cool. And then when I talked to a French local afterwards, and he explained to me about the characters all being themselves, a lot of things started to click more and make more sense. So they're popular French actors, so a lot of French can understand that, whereas people maybe from the US or a different country may be a little confused by that. So it adds another layer that, for those who know, they know. Another thing I don't want to say is necessarily a dislike, it's just a loss of connection. Since all the characters know each other, they're all playing themselves, it can be hard for people who may not know that to understand that relationship in that sense. Because, like, I did not personally know that all the actors were playing themselves in this until I talked to someone afterwards. And it connected a few dots that I didn't get when watching it. So in that aspect, there could be a little bit of disconnect for people. So if you watch it, just go into it knowing that these people all know each other. They're all friends. They're all family. They all came together. Even the director is like friends and family with everyone. And so just go into that knowing if you do end up watching it. So it may help clear up some things. Those are my only two critiques about it. I really enjoyed the film overall. It's a little odd story-wise, but as I said earlier, quoting the director, is a fake movie about real people. So it can be a little confusing, but it's also quite interesting at the same time. So I really enjoyed it. I'm going to give this a rating of an A. Thank you so much for joining me today, and have a nice night. Bye.